Welcome
to
another episode of Driving to the Res with your favorite hosts,
Larry
and
this time,
Inelia.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we did good.
Yeah.
It was fine.
Yeah.
No, you're not happy with it?
No, I think we need to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, we do.
I'm pretty used to that saying. We need to have an alternative way of saying it.
Oh yeah, like what?
I don't know yet. I think like Effany. Welcome to another Effany of
Driving to the Res. Do you want to remind people what Effany means?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I kind of have forgotten.
Effany was like a really nice...
It's a new word, a brand new word, seeded into the universe, right?
Yeah.
We seeded it, and it had glowing terms. It's all light word.
Yes.
It's an all light word.
Yes.
There's no light, dark, and Effany. It's all light.
It's all light, yeah.
I do remember that. I don't know the terms and the words exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I probably should write them down.
Yeah, I think you should, yeah.
Effany should have a geography.
Geography?
A place.
Uh-huh.
There's Effany places.
Oh, there is?
Oh, yes. Have you ever been to a place that's just like...
Oh my gosh, gorgeous.
I just don't even want to leave here. I think I should just move here.
Yeah.
That's a Effany place.
That's pretty much where we are, right?
Yeah, we have several Effanies. We were just talking about that yesterday.
We were.
Because, there's a lot of problems. One of these problems is, where do we stay tonight? It's so nice right here. But what about over there? We should stay over there.
Yes, it is true.
But what about here? I really, really like it here.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a bit of a challenge, honestly, for me to...
And none of the places are permanent.
Permanent?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very reasonably transient feeling, yeah. All of the places are excellent transients. There's no home base one spot.
No, but there isn't.
I mean, they each had the potential.
They do.
To become or be that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
But how do you move from... See, the set point in my state of being is I feel a little bit upset because I'm not at one of the other beautiful Effanies. Instead of Effany, because I'm at one of the Effanies.
So when you're in one Effany, you're missing the other Effany, and you're thinking you should be in the other one?
No, more like if I'm at one of the Effanies that we're not going to be staying at, that I'm sad that we're not staying at that Effany.
Oh, for the night, you mean?
Right.
Or for the week.
Right. And if we do stay at that Effany, then I kind of missed the Effany we didn't go back to.
Yeah, your bed.
Yeah. So,
or your beach, or your woods.
Your woods, your beach, your boat,
your boat. Mm-hmm.
Whichever one you're at that you're not staying at, you're wishing you're staying there. Mm-hmm. Even though if you were staying there, you want to be back at the other one.
Correct.
So it's a little bit of unsettled feeling, right?
Yeah,
how do you shift that unsettled feeling to gracious for the mass Effany?
Yeah. I don't know. I think maybe we could work on making them more welcome, more that you could stay there if you wanted to. So the backstory, though, why don't we stay in one of these on a permanent basis? That's what I'm interested in hearing from you.
Well, the Shaman Shack, we need a second-story bedroom.
It's an event center, so living in an event center is not that pleasant.
You have shared bathroom, which is fine for a week or two or a month.
But not for a year or permanent.
But I don't know if you've ever shared bathrooms with other men.
It's not a pleasant experience.
It's not a pleasant experience for some people. Mm-hmm. Mostly
women.
Women. I have been to houses. My mom and dad's, or their house. Remember, they had a mom's bathroom and all the other fellas' bathroom.
Yes.
And they're vastly, dramatically different inside.
They
more comfortable for each other.
Yep.
Depending on the sex.
First world problems, darling. First world problems.
Yeah, but it is a first world problem, but it's still a problem.
It is, yeah.
Because it creates unsettled unhappiness because of a conflict,
Yep. Plus, this is public space, and it's not just with whom you share the house with, but everybody that comes to this public space uses the same bathroom. So it's like living with a public bathroom.
Living with a public public restroom with nobody hired to do the public cleanings.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that's one of the Effanies.
So that's an Effany. On some of the other spaces, we don't have that problem. No. But one of our Effanies, we have no running water or sewer.
No running water, no sewer, and no internet.
No, we have internet there. That Effany on the res.
Oh, yeah, we do have. Yeah, we have electricity there, and we have internet, but we don't have sewer or water.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if we had sewer or water, that would be
pretty
a plus.
But
it's locked, and they're not. We can't have our
friends come over or anything.
Nobody can come over. Yeah, and they're very, very unhappy about the thought that we might get put behind a paywall.
Mm-hmm. Our friends, yeah.
Yeah. So they're part of our co-creative, experience of reality, and
they won't let us move there because.
So our sewer is very, very, very resistant to get put in, and our all of the bits and the bobs are on the extreme slow track.
Yes, very, very much.
The only way we get anything going is if we're very sneaky.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, ta-da, guess what? We got a blah blah. And they go like, not for long.
Right, yeah.
No, they don't. But they do get sad.
Yeah.
So that Effany has
lots of blocks.
A few blocks about it.
Yeah, because the res is closed to anybody who doesn't live there, so nobody can come and visit us.
Mm-hmm.
And then when things get worse,
when things get worse, it's not going to get better there.
No, it's not going to get better there. It's going to get much
that door is going to get slammed shut.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They even have those big blocks.
Yeah.
On the side of the road,
that already say
ready.
There already says road closed on them. They're already ready for it.
Yeah, on the side of the road right now, but those blocks are going to go across the road so fast.
Your head's going to spin.
Yeah, it's going to make your head spin.
And then our other Effany is our beautiful houseboat yacht.
Yeah.
And,
it's also at the res.
It's also at the res, but it obviously can be moved
to
another location. But if we move it to another location, it's not as idyllic, because we pretty much have an idyllic location for it.
We do, yeah.
And then also, it's halfway into a state of reconditioning.
Mm-hmm.
So pulling out, because we lived there for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And we had acquired and accumulated,
stuff.
when you have dressers,
you
and you put your clothes in there, and then you go live somewhere else, and you take some of them clothes, and you go to the other house, and then you live somewhere else again, and you go move clothes. You have like 3 or 4 places where you have clothes at.
Yeah.
One place ends up with all the clothes that you don't wear.
You don't wear it because it's not.
Otherwise, you would have brought it.
Yeah.
So Inelia ended up with all the clothes that you don't wear.
When we first got together, we were both extremely skinny too. Not so much anymore. Now we're regular sized.
Yes, my uncle says, "Oh my God, you're finally a real man."
Yeah.
Or something like that. What did he say?
Something
Not a kid anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was quite funny.
You finally grew up.
You finally grew up, yeah. So our Inelia Effany.
Yeah.
Every time we go there, you've got this longing of, I love this place so much. I want to wake up here.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a bit of a monumental task to bring it to a state of put a floor in, new chairs and a couch, because we tore the carpet out, and all of the clothes are on a bed. Comes from the dressers, because the dressers needed cleaned out because they were sitting too long.
Yeah.
It's not the kind of thing you just leave it.
No, you can't.
It's on a constant state of decomposition.
Yes.
It's trying to return to the sea.
It is, yeah.
If we ignored it for, 5 years,
It'll be gone.
It would be gone. And the fish would be living in it. And they would be quite happy to take it over.
And all our stuff.
They would love those clothes.
They would.
They wouldn't be bothered by a thing on there. And in another 5 years after that, you probably wouldn't be able to find much.
Right, yeah.
Maybe a bit of iron from the engine. As a matter of fact, if you walk around low tide in the bay, you will run across every now and then a engine or a shaft or a propeller, because that's happened a few times.
Yeah, that's true.
So that Effany has that, but when you're there, all you want to do
so lovely, isn't it?
Let's put these things in a bag. Let's put these things in a box. Let's just stay here for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then,
but again, it's behind the gate. The gates.
It's also behind the gate.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's even more than behind the gate. It's a half a mile down the
dock.
Hiding in the very farthest corner.
Yeah. Of the marina. It takes about 10 minutes just to walk down it.
Yeah. So it's like, if you want to be lone wolf,
it's great.
that's where you go.
Yeah.
And guess what?
It works.
Time for the lone wolf.
It's over.
So
can't really use that one
for that anymore. So while we're there, it seems so nice and we want to go there, but on the other hand, it's the opposite of what's the time for right now.
Yeah,
so
unfortunate.
It has that little tweaker.
It does, yeah.
And our other Effany is our
co-creation.
Co-created. Right? I don't know how you say it. Remember, they have the
community.
The words that you use to describe it, that everybody is, I want to have a blah blah, like intentional community and buy land together and I don't know, have a farm. And
as part of our instant manifestation workshop results,
right,
we all now own 40 acres of land.
48. Yes,
48 acres. Yeah,
47, 48 acres, off grid. That's one of the keywords everybody wants. Off grid. Even though, honestly, the off-grid part is like the first thing you try to fix.
With about a mile of beach.
A mile of beach.
Beachfront full of fossils.
Fossils end to end.
And sand and rocks and gems.
Yes. Gems.
It's just like
agates.
Amazing, really.
Yeah, it's a jungle. A house. And it's everything you ever wanted if you ever asked for a little bit of community land that you could, use together, gather, have people thinking of and working together and pooling their funds and pooling their thoughts and energies and desires and see what it is. Yeah, it's a pretty awesome place. We have our camper there.
We do.
Our trailer camper, the one that we were going to use for what? Oh, that was the one we were going to live at our other Effany with.
Yes.
Because we couldn't get a house built because every time we get started, our wonderful community would say, hey, wait a minute, we can't come there. You ain't having it.
Yeah.
Not really, but you know what I'm saying.
So with that one, we don't have water, we don't have electricity, we don't have internet, we don't have sewage.
No sewer, no internet even.
We
even
don't have
internet,
power.
No cell phone.
No,
well, there's a tower in Canada
that lets us
like
text.
So in some ways that's excellent. In other ways that's a bit limiting if your work is online.
Yes. So you can't stay there on a permanent basis, only like overnight or something.
Overnight or two, yeah.
Then you have to drive somewhere for uploading, downloading, and doing all your online work.
Right. Plus, it's different. I mean, as much as it's interesting, it's also different to work as a group of 10 people.
Yeah.
For how do you make decisions and choices, and how do you maintain autonomy at the same time maintain weeness?
Yeah.
Is that the right word?
Weeness. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a very, very interesting process and journey, I think.
Yeah, I can see where when we have focus, like focus this, let's resolve this, whatever, have a trail to good point.
Yeah.
We have a trail to good point. And it was a few hours. And it's a half a mile long trail through wilderness, up, down, around, gullies and everything. It was not just like, oh, I can see, just go this way. Yeah, it had nothing to do with, oh, I can see, go this way.
You couldn't get through.
You had no idea which way you were going until you got there.
Yeah.
And then when you were getting there, my gosh, up and over and around to try and make a trail through it.
It's a rainforest. I mean, it's like
you take one step and then you have to work for a few minutes to take the next step.
Exactly, yeah. But with Fred and Mike, Dan, you, Ileana, Ashley and myself, we did it. We made a fabulous trail to Good Point very, very quickly, didn't we? Took us a day.
Took us a day, and now we have with anything, any property, there's a place on it that you just get there and you're like, oh wow. Yeah, that takes you right to one of those places. Yeah, pretty extraordinary.
Yeah.
I feel extremely lucky that we were able to have 10 people who did enough work together to actually trust each other and focus with each other and
trust themselves too, right?
Trust themselves too, right?
Yeah. Each other and themselves. It was amazing.
So that's pretty excellent Effany.
So lots of Effanies. None of them we can stay in.
Well, we come to the Shamachak all round circle. We all end up back here because it's the community.
Yeah, but I don't feel comfortable here because it is, not comfortable for somebody to live full time. At least not for me. I need my space. I need my room. I need, my bathroom where I can unpack my stuff.
Yeah, and it doesn't have multiple deodorants and a bunch of toothbrushes and a long line of knocking at the doors.
Yeah.
So one of the solutions we have come up with is a second floor, right?
Second floor maybe, or an extension maybe.
Or an extension maybe.
Yeah, for a bedroom and a bathroom for me, and then it'll be where I live, I guess.
You do have to find a place that you want to be for the next couple of years if things are exciting. I don't think exciting is the right word.
Excitable.
Or cranked to 11. When things are cranked to 11, where do you want to be? Do you want to be on your yacht, hiding at the end of the thing behind a gate, a fence?
Unfortunately, the res is not an option, not just because it's gated, but also because the frequency there is not good. There's about 800 people dying, and their physical bodies know it.
Yeah.
And the stress of the energy, it's just
It's about like a city, basically. It's the same as being in a city because it's a closed place with a lot of people.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So whenever we go there, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous, but the energy just gets to us and we get grumpy and upset and start getting sick very quickly.
Yeah, and that was an interesting bit there because most of everyone there doesn't appear physically, visibly affected like you or I are, but we're not exposed to it at any degree.
Right.
And then we go, then we're all of a sudden exposed to it at a level instead of a slow build up, where your toxicity levels are increasing slowly. You probably don't even notice it. Right. It goes up by a little bit every day.
You get used to it and you normalize it.
Normalized, right. Your bodies are really adaptive. And that's one of the reasons they're hard to,
get rid of
because they can pretty well adapt to pretty toxic environments. Yes, think about it. You've seen TV shows or documentaries of some of the conditions some of the human bodies are living in on a regular everyday basis, and
you go, whoa,
they look fine. That they have like gruel to eat, and they have toxins every day, super exposed to toxins, but their bodies are tough.
Yep.
But I'm sure if you or I went to go hang out there for a week,
we
would probably I can't even imagine what would happen.
We would get very
would
sick.
be so uncomfortable and so sick probably. We probably wouldn't make it.
Yeah.
Just drinking out of one of the puddles one time would probably do us out.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. And so that's one thing to recognize is that if you have found your tribe that's got clean bodies and you mix with bodies that are not clean, you're going to notice it.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like that was going to be the case before, but it's totally is the case.
Yeah. Now we know why it was important to step away from cities.
Yeah, because that very thing, those things are cumulative. It's an accumulative type of thing, and then it'll be activated, I guess. Mm-hmm. I think that's generally speaking what I guess I would call many doctors are very clever people. They're not idiots, but they had to go through a lot of brainwash training, and they're placed in basically high stress of huge amount of debt, high stress of huge amount of responsibility, high stress of, life or death choices that they're obligated to make it a certain way because, they have insurance basically.
What is that noise?
That's Brad. He was very interested in your babies.
What babies?
Your babies who are now teenagers. Your teenager chicks.
Yeah, we let the baby chicks out of the cage, the small cage, the kennel.
They start life in a coop.
Yes.
With their mommy.
Yeah.
And it has a small little grass yard that they go out in when they're teensy tiny little babies.
Winchy.
And it's a finch cage with a hole cut in it on the ground so they can peck on the ground and eat grass and, be baby chickens, but not be in any danger of getting eaten by
Brad.
Literally everything that flies by.
Yes.
Crows, ravens, Brads,
everybody wants to
Lucy's,
eat them.
Everything. And then as they grow older, they outgrow that little yard space, and we put Lucy's original
big
dog kennel from Costco.
Yeah, that's like a cage, right? It's not like a wood thing.
Yeah, it's not a wood thing. It's a giant screened kennel, like 8 panels, I don't know, 10 or 20 foot by 20 foot, something like that. It's pretty big. So we put that by the door, open the door, and then they move into that larger kennel because now they can't squeak through those holes. But chickens are insidious, those guys. They eat every living thing in that little space. Whatever's there, it's gone. All the way through the dirt. They probably would make it all the way to China if you just let them be.
Yeah.
So now we've opened that, and they're in Lucy's larger kennel, which is like half the yard.
Yeah.
And Lucy's out of there. She's the chicks are out. Lucy doesn't go in. She's a guardian dog, and she's supposed to guardian chickens, but she's kind of like what would I call her? She had an interrupted childhood. She's in an ideal environment, Lucy as guardian would guard her baby chicks and her chickens. And I think on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday she might do that. On Thursday she'll probably go into one of her ego personalities or alter personalities we've been reading about. She, has their trauma-based environmental inputs that have created ego personalities in her. And she might think that little baby chicken was trying to steal her food or something and go chase it off and
kill it.
Yeah. Not trying to kill it, but maybe trying to kill it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think so.
So you can't really leave her in with her chickens, even though that's her job, is to protect her chickens. And she does protect her chickens. If a crow or a raven comes around, she makes that crow or raven go away. Or if a coyote or a fox or anything's noise or a person or anybody comes around, she gives the warning. But if you give her the actual thing she's protecting, not so good at it.
Not so good at it, yeah.
Not so far. Now, we were told that you cannot leave them alone with those, their animals until they're over 2 years old.
Right.
And she's about 2 years old now.
I think so, yeah.
So it's possible that she has come to her senses, because before she was a toddler, and she had jaws of a tiger and a toddler brain.
Yeah.
And she's supposed to make her own choices about what's the right thing to do in these situations.
Right.
But she's had something of an interrupted childhood, being run over by a car and amputation and
even when we got her, though, she
all
was
that stuff. Plus,
when we got her at
she was
4
already
months,
something had happened
wrong.
to her.
It had.
She was so distrustful of men.
Yeah.
And if you're wearing a hat, even worse.
Yeah.
And if you have a garden hose,
oh my God, forget it. She's going to be dead.
You're killing her with a garden hose if you're around her with a hose. Yeah. So they have a very long life, 15 years, 20 years, and they have a extremely good memory for detail, because they recognize in their environment everything is as it is right now, and any change to the environment is something to investigate.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they have a quick
they remember
memory for stuff. So they're going to remember stuff, basically. That's what I'm saying.
Anyways, you were talking about your cat.
Was I?
Yeah. Why he was making so much noise today.
Yeah, because the baby chicks are out for the first day, and he would like to go sniff them.
Eat them.
We're going to have a gentle introduction. Beast meat, not food.
Yeah.
I'm going to feed him with a bunch of his favorite treats. Then we'll go take him outside and watch him and watch your babies and see what his instincts do. I'm pretty sure he'll be fine. Okay. But the consequences of him not being fine, same thing with Lucy, are dead chickens.
Yeah, dead chickens.
Which, I think we talked about that a few years ago. These chickens need to get with a high frequency paradigm, right?
Yeah, and some of them are just running the food.
Eat me.
It's like we have the roosters really well covered. They're in their own coop, right? Because we're not going to eat them, and they're fed and looked after by Dan. He takes care of them really well. And one of them escaped. We don't know how the hell he did it.
Straight out to the coyote field.
Yeah, and the coyote ate him.
Instant.
Yeah. It was just, how did that happen? I mean, you have to try really hard as a chicken in this place to get it, because you got Lucy, you got the other dogs.
Yeah, fences. This area is claimed. They don't come on our area.
No,
the only place is
just outside the border.
Just outside the border, yeah.
Uh-huh. It's so weird. They have to try real hard.
So that was why with the cat, but that did bring up a thing, and it had to do with life and death, and it has to do with these higher self choices. I know you've talked about higher self choices in the past, and they get to be, it's like, is it a language thing calling it a higher self, or is a higher self actually a thing? And is that higher self in charge of stuff, or is that higher self something you enlist to help you with stuff?
I think that, because we have been reading a book.
Yeah, soul healing book, Dr. Zinsser.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. We haven't finished it yet, but
it's actually a bit tough to read.
You found it tough? Why?
It's a little tough to read because...
Why did you find it tough to read?
It's psychoanalysis, and it's technical in some nature, and it's
a doctor book.
It gets confusing unless you're really interested in that field, I suppose, because they got ego states, and there's earthbound spirits, and they do the same exact thing, but how do you tell the difference? And so I think the way he's trying to describe the difference, the difference between an ego state construct in your physical body and an earthbound spirit
that's possessed,
or riding along with you. Yeah. They come in something similar time and situations, like in an event of trauma, or your frequencies at a state where they can be invited in, or I guess stuff like that. It's like, how do you tell the difference? But in the process of how do you tell the difference, the descriptions get a bit tedious to me. So it's a slog.
It's a slog.
It's a slog, but there's like a fruit at the end. It's like next we're going to have this. It's like, okay, I can't wait to learn about that. And then we get there and it's like, oh, can we just get to the next thing now? So I'm just saying it's tough reading.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because the layers to a person are way far and above more than you think. You think you're just talking to, oh, hi, honey, how are you? But your honey might be 16 honeys in there.
Yeah.
And depending on the day, who's in charge or who's talking or what the responses are.
Right.
And oftentimes, if not always, those who's that are answering don't tell the other who's that you answered. So if you find yourself forgetting things, and admittedly, some of these people are extreme cases
all of these people, all the study cases, that's something to remember.
Yeah,
that
they are
these
extreme
books,
cases.
It's not like everybody's possessed on the planet by spirits. That's not true. Or that everybody has multiple personalities. That's also not true. However, in my experience, and also from my Native American upbringing, part of it, because I'm a mix, I have seen that the majority of individuals on the planet can have spirits possessing them from alcohol and drugs when they're using.
Oh, yes. That puts them right in a state of
open
door.
Yeah. And a lot of people have blackouts when they drink because somebody else takes over. That's it. And also, people talk about fighting their demons when they're getting out of addiction. And those words didn't just pop up randomly. It is actually true. So I have found that. And also, I have found in Western society encourages a kind of fracturing of the personality in how do you say that word? It always tricks me out.
Compartmentalization.
Yes, compartmentalization.
There you
go. So one moment you're mom, the next one you are the employee, the next one you're the boss. Yeah. The next one you're the nurse.
Many roles.
The next one you're the lover. The next one you're the spouse, So, or husband, or father, or son, and all these things, And so you separate yourself in those sub-routines or sub-personalities and respond and react and behave differently in each one. And I have found that a lot in the Western world. And a lot of the work that I do with my mentorees and my students is to bring all that back together so that person becomes whole.
Is that the integration thing?
Yeah, so they become the person no matter what situation or role they're on. And there's a lot of people are familiar with soul retrieval as a shamanic practice. And basically you go and find your energy bits that you might have left in people or locations or situations around the world, and you bring them back to yourself to become whole again. And people do have huge benefits from that. And they have a lot more energy, they're more complete, they remember stuff that I'd forgotten and stuff like that too, right? So that's, I think that we go back, if we circle back to the higher self part.
Yes.
I have found that, yeah. Wow, that's loud even inside, huh?
Yeah, he's a hot rod.
I have found that an individual, we talk about higher self. I talk about higher self a lot.
Yeah, right? Higher self choice.
The higher self choices and the little self choices. And in these books, they talk about the higher self in different terms. But one of the things that we were wondering about and talking about was
higher self in the ish, remember?
Yeah. Why a couple of things.
In specific, he enlists the help of the higher self.
So why doesn't just the higher self deal with it? Why does he need a doctor to come in and ask it to deal with it? That's one of the questions. Right,
because the higher self's there, it should be able to deal with this stuff all by itself. It doesn't need somebody else to remind it what to do. It's like, hello.
Yeah.
The higher self should know.
and be able to do it without being told or asked.
That's exactly what I would have thought, but it doesn't seem to work that way.
No, it doesn't.
It has to be asked, invited, and agreement is involved. Agreement, even though I thought higher self's choice trumped physical body's choice, in a sense, or soul choice. Souls and higher selves are different things.
Yeah.
So the geography of human is part of that part that gets a bit complicated, because you think you understand it, but you really don't have it put together right yet. And that's basically what the book's exploring, is how do you create this, what a human being is, including an inner self-helper, a higher self, ego states, other people in the form of like ghosts, well, what we would call ghosts, but basically the consciousness bits that didn't leave when the other person was dissolving into their component parts. Like your dead stepbrother who's happy being there and rather just happy tagging along life. And then, of course, evil spirits or not evil spirits, just wandering spirits, even earthbound spirits. So there's like 10 things in a person so far that we've added up, maybe 15. All in different levels of power within a person, and not in every person, and not in all. But
no, again,
everyone
these
has
are
some of
extreme
those
cases, right, that he's talking about, because he's like a doctor that gets patients.
Yeah, patients are going there not because everything's peachy keen,
Exactly.
it's because things ain't working.
Right, and they can't get over traumas, or they can't get over something, right? They can't achieve something, and they're still blocked, or they're having blackouts and all these type of things, right?
Right, and they're picking to go to him specifically, and he's doing this work specifically, so at a higher self level. That
was going to be my point.
Oh.
So, one of the things that we talk about in the book is, like, we were wondering about, why would the higher self need this other person to tell him what to do?
Say, higher self, go clean this mess up. And the higher self says, okay. Yes, sir, I got it. Yeah. And it's like magic key.
Yeah.
Like, well, geez, if all you had to do was that, why do you have to wait to go there to do that? Just do it.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
What I have found when people come to me with the inability to connect to their higher self anymore, or their extended family, or their
guides and angels,
or whomever,
or
right?
their guys,
their 80 families, or whatever, right? What I have found is that the small self, the personality that lives on the planet Earth, having an experience here, has managed to disconnect themselves from the rest of themselves. That's what I find.
That's probably no small feat, that, huh?
And no matter what the higher self does or says or thinks or whatever, or tries to do, they can't get through to the smaller self. They just can't get through. But they can't get through enough to send them to somebody else to talk through.
Orchestrate
the whole thing.
So right? that end up there.
Yeah. So they go to this other person, and then basically the other person is like channel for their higher self. Right?
Ooh, handy.
That's the way that I see it. So the other person is a channel for the higher self. It's not like the other person brings the higher self in to help. It's the other way around.
That's right.
The higher self has brought the person in
to be the
translator for the person, because they got disconnected.
And the other person is, like Dr. Zinsser's, interpreting what's happening as him enlisting the help of them. But it's really the other way around.
Exactly, it's the other way around.
That's what I thought. I thought there was something fishy with that. And we instantly, it's like the truth, what they call that class that you have?
The truthing class?
Truthing class, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know. If you haven't done that, or you don't really know how to tell truth from not truth, I highly recommend you get that class and do it and apply it.
Go ineliabenz.com/store and you get it there.
So when we were reading this and we got to that section, instantly the bells go off like, this isn't right.
Yeah.
This is an interesting book, and I like his process.
But this
interpretation is not true.
Yeah. A little bit.
What isn't true about it, I'm not sure, but we need to investigate it.
Right.
And this is what we just did.
Mm-hmm.
So, nice. I like to see these tools in use in real life, how they make our life better. Yeah. How does that make life better? Well, it clears up a very obvious misconception that your higher self is helpless.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So not a very good interpretation.
Mm-hmm. But the other bit that's interesting to me is that often, and I have told people to do it too, is when they can't get through to a person directly, I tell them, well, have a chat with their higher self to higher self.
Yes.
And see what happens, right? And so why would that make any difference? Because there's not the same higher self. It's a different higher self. And yes, you can have a conversation with another person's higher self to explain things or to get some sort of resolution because you're separate from that other person. At that level of the game, you're a separate entity. So yes, you can talk to another person's higher self and have a conversation with them.
Because higher selves aren't like omnipotent.
They're not omnipotent, no.
Right. They're not everyone's higher self is all
one.
Equal and equally experienced in all things, for example.
Plus they're different people. They're not the same person.
Right. Hey, that's good. Good to think of it that way.
Yeah.
That makes an interesting thing. And then you can respect each other's higher self choices because oftentimes we go through life believing everybody else, for the most part, feels and thinks and experiences life much like we do. And the choices that we would make, like there's a grasshopper on a road and you would go pick it up and get it out of the road so it doesn't get squished.
Yeah.
That's not the same higher self choice that a crow would make. Right?
You pick it up for different reasons. Yeah.
I would pick the crow up, to stop him from getting squished, and the crow would pick the crow up because it's a yummy treat. Yeah. Well, another person might see the grasshopper and see it in the road and go squish it.
Yeah.
Because that thing's going to eat my crop.
Right.
And another might go to that grasshopper and do something like go make a little terrarium for him and have it for a pet for the next 10 years. Watch it turn into a butterfly or whatever they do. I don't think grasshoppers turn into butterflies.
I don't think so. I think they stay grasshoppers.
Yeah. But some of the choices that some of the higher selves make are inconceivable to us. Like the crow's higher self choice, I'm never going to go over there and grab that grasshopper and eat it.
No.
But in some places of the world they do.
They do, yeah.
And they roast them.
Mm-hmm.
And they eat them and they love them.
Yeah, they're like shrimp.
I'm sure they're delicious shrimp.
Yeah.
But the point is not so much about grasshoppers. It's that higher self choices made for reasons that are outside your scope of why would you do that. Some people are like self-limiting themselves. And why would they limit themselves?
Right.
Because they have an experience of life that they want to have. And this limit allows that experience. Without that limit.
Can I just interject there that every single being on this planet limits themselves. You are a bundle of limitations. Because if you weren't, you wouldn't be able to experience the physical universe. Or have a human experience. You wouldn't be able to. However, the level of limitations, when you become aware of them and conscious of them, then you can become able to choose what limitations to keep and which ones to release.
Right.
So, for example, there's a person, let's say, who has a limitation on having a wonderful marriage. Right? So they have crappy marriages because they're limited. They're self-limiting to crappy marriages. And they
Why
don't
would
understand.
They do that?
It could be programs running, but they're unconscious.
Right.
So they think this is normal. They think that it's impossible for them to have a happy marriage. Because they're running limits.
Or that they don't deserve it or whatever.
It could be all sorts of things. Yeah, the limitations, my gosh, there could be 10,000 of them. But the end result is they're unconscious, therefore they think this is it. This is how relationships go.
And this is a good relationship. A shitty one is a good one.
It's
That's
a relationship.
just the way they are.
Right. because all men are psychotic or whatever, you know, or have no feelings or can't communicate, or all women are psychotics or have no feelings or can't communicate or whatever, you know. It's like they have these programs running and that's the only people they see. So that's the limitation. They can't see other individuals. They can't see people who are not psychotic, right? So that's how it that's the limitations that they choose to keep. And then by becoming conscious and aware of it, there might become a time when they go in their higher self choice. They say, okay, it's time to move on to different type of relationships. So they orchestrate meeting with a guide of some sort, a psychic or a teacher, or read my stuff, my tools, or some other tools. And they orchestrate that. They become aware of their choices. And they go, oh, wait, there's more people on the planet and they're not actually all psychotic? That's amazing, right? I'm going to see them. And then they start seeing those and they meet somebody who's actually normal, not psychotic at all. And they get married and have a wonderful relationship because that limitation's gone. The limitation is gone. So they're able to expand into something else. So when we talk about the higher self and the limitations of people, you have to be aware that we're all carrying millions of limitations to be able to have a human experience, right? Mm-hmm. So orchestrating a conversation with our higher self to see how we can remove this, I'm done with it, right? Then
who's the I'm done with it though?
the personality usually.
Because there's
or the higher self.
The higher self done with it. The lower middle. Who is it that's
as a
done
higher
with it?
When I spoke into higher selves, actually, they have multiple lives going in multiple timelines, mm-hmm. and each one is pretty much running an experience, mm-hmm. and the choices are always at a higher self level, always, and how they're manifested, or when you're done, you get the feeling throughout that you're done on something. As well as when you're not done, you get an overall feeling that you're not done.
So, for example, you have a program running at some level that suffering is good because through suffering you get the greatest growth.
For example,
what level is that program running? Higher self level?
No.
Soul level?
Yeah.
Physical body level?
Yeah, soul and physical body.
And the higher self is happy to carry out that program?
Totally.
Because that's the
experience
higher self choice, or that's the other self choice? I mean, who's the boss of the choice? I guess that's the question. That is a question.
That's a whole integrated being's choice, right?
Yeah.
At every level.
So if you have a conversation with a higher self and say, hey, you know that your body's running this program of suffering creates the most growth, and it's not actually true, that there are other ways to have experiences that don't involve suffering, for example. Mm-hmm. Then the higher self isn't aware of that before then, or what?
Of course they are.
So why do you have that conversation? Is it just because that was the way that humans communicate?
That is the way that the person who's wanting to have a higher self conversation with the other person can resolve it.
So the process of talking about it, the process of observing it, communicating it, seeing it, making it physically a ball of something, the act of, in the physical world that we're at, making it matter, having that conversation with whatever self that will hear it, is what brings it to be. Is it something like that because of the universe that we're in now? Or
here's the thing, honey. The person who needs to have that conversation with the other higher self, that's the person who's benefiting from it.
Okay. I hope everybody else understood that. Because I just lost who's who. Who's who in the zoo. Well, that person's going to have a great time then.
So say Larry wants to have a higher self talk with Inelia.
Okay.
So Inelia's doing some stupid thing that he considers to be stupid thing, right? And he wants to have a chat with Inelia's higher self about that stupid thing.
Yeah, because Inelia's not higher self is not listening.
Not listening at all. Like
As a matter of fact, she's the opposite of not listening.
Yes, opposite. Listening is the
No.
opposite. That's just listening.
That isn't exactly what I meant.
Okay, you're getting confused again.
Actively not listening.
Right.
Not just I can't hear you. It's like, I'm not going to listen to what you have to say.
Correct. So.
Okay.
That's the situation. So Larry decides to have a chat with Inelia's higher self about this thing.
Yes.
Because he really believes that she should really be listening.
Yeah, because this is a
Not
clear
good.
case of, hey, you should listen to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is important.
Okay. So he closes his eyes, he goes into his higher self, and he finds Inelia's higher self and has a conversation with Inelia's higher self.
Okay.
Right?
Is she listening?
She totally listens, yeah.
All right.
She listens 100%.
Is there lots of people talking to your higher self?
Acknowledging you and everything.
Seems like there's a big pile of people there talking, honey.
Yes. Now.
How many million is there?
There's billions, actually. Okay. So
how do we get to the front of the line?
It's a higher self thing.
Higher selves don't have lines?
No.
They're able to hear multiple channels simultaneously. Jeez.
Right. So,
okay.
You had a conversation. How do you feel?
I feel like my voice was lost in a sea of requests.
Maybe we should use a different person as an example.
That'd be a good idea. Brad?
All right.
Does Brad have a higher self?
He does. Yes.
Brad the cat.
Brad the cat. Yes.
Okay. We're going to have a higher self conversation with Brad because he's convinced these baby chickens are something worth pursuing, and maybe claws and maybe teeth should be used.
And blood everywhere. Yeah, and guts.
Because they have liver.
Yes.
They're walking liver.
Yes.
He is very, very fond of liver.
Yes. All right.
So Brad's higher self. Okay. He's looking at me.
Now have a conversation with him.
He thinks he's a cougar.
Yes.
Quite big.
Yeah.
I can let him have cougar. I don't have to rein him in, right?
Yeah.
Just allow his higher self cougarness to be what it is.
Yeah.
He's quite pretty, quite big, quite powerful. And his eyes are closed and he's purring and he's happy to see me. I don't know how to explain to this giant cougar, don't eat those baby chicks, because it's incomprehensible.
Maybe tell him they're kittens.
Okay, he said he would lick them then.
Okay.
But he won't. He won't chew them, but he would.
All right.
So it's going to be a little challenging to let him go lick the chickens, honey.
Now, how do you feel?
Good, like we were able to communicate, and he understood my point.
Exactly.
And he, at this point, laying on the beautiful red chair in the living room of the shaman shack, not stimulated in any way, he's fine with just giving them a little lick.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you feel good, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So that's the benefit of talking to somebody else's higher self, that you feel good. So that's one example of having a higher self conversation.
Brilliant.
Yes.
All right. Well, that makes good sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And often an individual will come and, the higher self will need to take a personality in order for them to even hear them. So they might call them an angel or Jesus or God or Mary or Hanuman or whatever, They will take a personality, dress themselves in a way so that the person will listen to them, to reconnect with the higher self. Because what my experience has been is that people who are on the planet, like I say, full of limitations, And one of those limitations is the disconnect from their higher self, so that they can't have a game full of experience. Because if they're fully connected with their higher self all the time, they cannot have a game that's full of importances and experiences. It's like, you know? So sometimes the mesmerization becomes so deep that, like I said, that there's the disconnect, and then there's time to reconnect at a certain level. And usually it's very limited. For us, you know, one person might think, whoa, they got connected for a split second and the person's super happy. They had a whoa experience and it's changed their life forever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But then they're back to disconnect until the next millisecond, right? People often talk about having had I can't remember the name of it, Shakti, no. Maybe that's the
Kundalini
name?
Kundalini or whatever.
Yeah. Or an enlightened
Transcendental experience, yeah. Enlightenment experience.
Yeah. All those are little
peak
seconds.
Experience.
All those are moments when they were connecting with their higher self.
Oh, wow.
And it's not just about a person's higher self, because there's a level of a collective higher self too. Mm-hmm. There's a collective higher self. And the collective higher self is everybody's higher self acting in a kind of sociocracy way, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And they're connected, they're one, but they're not, you know? And connecting to that one just blows people's minds. It's like they've gone into the light and they're now enlightened, you know? Mm. And
because they're all experience and every experience simultaneously.
Yeah. And all the love. I mean, the amount of love that a person feels, and not just love, but the
completeness, maybe?
Love, completeness, nirvana type energies that they feel when they reconnect with their essence, with their higher self, is immense. And when they reconnect with the collectives ones, and their soul collective and their physical body collectives, it's just
exponentially even more.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So the obvious question is, why isn't that like the normal state of being?
Because their choice is to have other experiences, to be able to be enthusiastic about climbing a mountain, for example, or going fishing, or doing a job, you know, doing like creating a painting or the architecture of a house, or being a doctor, fixing the truck. Yeah.
I did that yesterday.
Yes, it felt good, right?
Yeah, it felt good.
It really felt good.
I didn't have to go to the garage, didn't have to hire somebody, just got the part in the mail, watched the video, did it.
Yeah.
Now it's fixed.
Uh-huh. And it felt good, right?
Yeah. Felt good. I mean, there were bits and parts that were like, why did I do this?
You came back into the house covered in grease.
What was I thinking?
Yeah.
And then there were parts of, oh, this isn't so bad. And there were parts of, oh my God, how are we going to get that apart? I don't remember this part in the video.
Yeah.
And there were overcoming the obstacle. How about this tool? Oh yeah, that were good. Holy moly.
Plus you had co-creators, right?
Oh yes, I had plenty of help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who helped you?
Well, Lucy, she had on her prosthetic. And she was there to make sure that, you know,
nobody got close.
Beasts came to mess with us while we were, you know, she was laying in the cement, cool, with one eye open, watching everybody do everything. And nobody stepped out of line. Everything was good. So Lucy helped, and Dan helped with his vast knowledge of machines and all of his tools, and all of his ideas and thoughts. Whenever we come up to an obstacle, we had an obstacle, there was this band made out of stainless steel. I know it's terrifically interesting, right? Somehow we had to get that thing apart. Yeah. But it doesn't have a place to take it apart. It's like stuck forever. So we had to cut it. But it was a little space there, and how do you cut that little piece of I mean, you can't use scissors. You can't use clippers.
But he had a tool?
But he had a tool, a battery-powered Dremel with a grinder on the end. And right through it in like literally 3 seconds.
Wow.
It was a no problem.
Okay.
So yeah, Dan and Fred showed up to help.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And once we were all there and focused on doing it, geez, it just went together.
That's cool, huh?
Yeah, it was nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now I could have magically connected to my higher selves and entered that alternate timeline where my truck never needed repaired.
And you wouldn't have cared about a broken truck.
I wouldn't have cared about a broken truck then. It's like, truck, who needs truck?
Exactly.
The very needing of a truck.
Yeah.
It requires some funny limitations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it all come together to create the orchestrated experience that you're here to have, whatever that might be.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And it's alterable and changeable and orchestratable to be a different thing. But from some points of view, the idea of, I think I would like to exist in the state where I don't want a truck or need a truck or have to care about fixing a truck or a truck doesn't even enter into the equation. But that isn't actually true.
Right.
If that were true, then one thing wouldn't be true.
What?
You wouldn't be here to begin with.
Right. So that's why we have all those limitations. Do you see?
Okay. Yep, that makes sense now.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why we don't always continuously connected to our higher self.
Right. Whew.
Mm-hmm. Did you want to talk a little bit about demonic possession now?
I don't know if I have it.
No, maybe for the next episode.
I think we'll have that in the next show.
Yeah.
Demonic possessions. Yeah.
Now we have a Theodora possession right now, purring away. She wants attention.
What a good purr-monder.
Do you feel complete, honey?
I think I feel complete, yeah.
Sweet.
I'll go back to the books and check out the demonic possessions. That's our next few chapters.
All right. Cool.
How we're going to recognize them, how you, what do you do with them, how do you handle it. I mean, you might run across it. It could happen.
It could, yeah. And for sure, if people around you drink alcohol
or
drugs,
heroin or opium
yeah, you will be surrounded by them.
They are very attracted to that type thing. I think it disassociates the person's what does it do that allows that to happen?
I don't know the mechanics behind it. I just know that it happens when people drink alcohol or take drugs.
Yeah, it's not just because it's against the law or it is illegal. It has
alcohol is very legal because of that.
Yeah, in some places it's not.
Yeah,
it's not legal on the res.
No, but they still drink it outside of the res. Right?
Yeah. Well, they still drink it on the res. It's just not legal.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, that's next week, I think.
Okay. We'll talk about that next week.
We'll write it on the wall. Maybe we'll do a cooking on the res demon series.
I thought it was gonna be spaghetti with a dash of Area 51.
Or maybe it's buffalo chili with a dash of demon spice.
Oh no!
No?
No.
You don't think we'll get clicks for that?
Oh, no.
Okay then. Oh my gosh.
I don't want demons on my chili.
All right. Well, so long we know how to depossess them, I guess it's not that big a deal, right? Just.
Well, yeah, just don't let them in the first place.
Okay. No demon spice chili.
No.
Okay, honey. Love you.
I love you too.